You have to cognitively think about everything you do to fit what other people expect of you. I would wake up every morning and literally have to be cognizant of every move that I made, everything that I said, just to try to fit this narrative that I thought in the box that I thought I had to fit into. And it was exhausting. God, it was so tiring. And I've never felt more like myself when I came out. And me coming out, I became such a better competitor from that moment on, because all of that energy that I was putting into being somebody that I wasn't was now able to be used in training when I'm competing. And I didn't have to use any of that energy, any of that mentality. I didn't have any negativity in my life to hold me down and push me back from what I was truly capable of.
Go. Dig. Don't quit. Go.
If you don't look at adversity and look at it as a challenge to succeed, don't expect anything great. If you're not willing to accept that for what it is, put your head down and rework what you thought was going to get you to your end goal, then there's no reason to ever be successful. There's nothing exciting at that point. I think a lot of why people don't achieve certain things is because, to a certain extent, life becomes monotonous and everything is just a daily routine and there's nothing exciting. And to me, I look at adversity as something exciting in life. While it may suck, while it may not be fun at the moment, it's what we can look back on and realize that is what pushed me to do this. That is what got me to this level in my life. That is why I'm now happy. I think everybody who's ever achieved some level of success in life has gone through adversity and not looked at it as a detriment, but looked at it as a challenge to succeed. The only way we evolve, the only way we grow, the only way we get better is being in positions that we're not used to, things that make us uncomfortable. And that's what pushes us to be better in whatever we're doing, whether that's business, whether that's lifting, whether that's our relationships, whether that's life. The more you put yourself in an unfamiliar position, the more you're able to adapt and understand and acclimate, especially when it comes to adversity. We learn so much from overcoming things that we never thought were possible. I never thought I'd be a world's strongest man competitor. I never thought I'd have records in this sport. But from years and years and years of people telling me that, I was never going to be good enough, that I was never going to be big enough, that I was never going to be strong enough, that was all the adversity that I needed to really prove them wrong and do what I'm doing now. My first goal ever in strongman was to not take last. And then I did that. On the 9th competition I didn't take last. From there, it was don't zero an event, because up until then I had zeroed an event at every single contest, and that happened on the 14th competition. Once I hit that goal, then it was okay, let's try to get on the podium, let's get a trophy this time. And on the 17th competition I won, and from last place to not zeroing to finally winning a competition. There's been a lot of times in my career where I've been beaten down and I've been so close and just barely missed. And fast forward to Nationals 2013, I actually won the national championship by the largest margin of victory in history, and that record still stands today. I mean, if you're not willing to put in the extra hours and grind and work hard at something, then what's the motivation? What's the reason? Why are you doing something? Why are you working hard? What is the reason you're doing this? You have to find your why. Once somebody finds that why, hard work just comes naturally. because you don't want to let yourself down, I think is a big part of that. I don't know if there's anybody that's successful in life that's miserable with what they're doing. If you're miserable and you're not motivated, then how do you get excited to do whatever it is you want to do? A lot of people fall into the ruts of just being comfortable, and I think we grow as humans when we're uncomfortable. And I think that's one thing that is really that's what my early years of strongman taught me was, okay, yeah, it sucks at 17 years old to be waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the gym, but this is something I enjoy and I'm having fun while doing it, so why not? And there were days that I was extremely tired and sore, and I definitely slacked at football practice because of what I had done that morning, or there was all these variables, but it's something that I loved to do. When I was going through high school, I had a family member pass away from Lou Gehrig's disease. In that moment, I was, impressionable, and a lot of things were going on in life. So I found this quote that was by J.B. Go that said, "Reputation is for time, character is for eternity." Up until that point, the only thing I was concerned about was being the best version of myself. And then when I got that invite to World's Strongest Man in 2017, it was the biggest sigh of relief. It was the ultimate feeling of achievement and accomplishment, but it was also the biggest FU to everybody that told me I couldn't do it. And that's when I came up with the quote, "Train to become the person they said you would never be." And that has been, my motto ever since then, because even still being one of the smallest competitors, I'm constantly told I will never amount to really much more than what I currently am right now. And I think, especially speaking with adversity, that's what I've dealt with my entire career. And if people can have that mentality of working towards achieving goals and achieving things in life that everybody told you was impossible, it makes life so much more exciting to live. At the end of the day, you have to be your biggest fan. You have to be your biggest supporter, and you have to believe in yourself more than anybody else. You have to have that same mentality, because nobody's going to take care of you better than you. Coming out is both the most exciting and terrifying part of a person's life. And it takes an unbelievable amount of strength to proclaim your true self to the world. I was at a point in my life where when I came out, I had kind of this FU mentality where if you didn't like it, I didn't need you. And I was completely ready to accept any of the repercussions that came from me coming out and proclaiming who I truly am. What kept me in that mindset was my happiness in this moment and for the rest of my life is more important than any relationship I have in this world. It's a time where you get to be selfish. You get to put yourself first. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that. They're worried about what it's going to do to others. And for me, I had the exact opposite feeling. It's what is this going to do for me? Because ultimately I knew that was going to make my life better. That's what was going to make me happy. And my happiness was more important than anybody else's feelings about the situation. While I was definitely scared, especially being in such a hyper-masculine sport like strongman, I can honestly say not a single competitor or person that I dealt with in the sport had anything negative to say. I constantly put myself in situations of adversity when getting into the sport of strongman. Going to competitions, always taking last place, never being the strongest, never being the fastest, never being the best athlete. I was constantly putting myself in those situations. And I think the only reason I'm at this level of the sport right now, when you yourself choose to go and face adversity to achieve something, I think the best way to be successful is knowing that you can and will be successful on the other end, regardless of the outcome of that adverse moment. Failure has been constant in my career, and I think that's why I am who I am today. Constantly dealing with how to accept failure, constantly dealing with how to make sure it didn't happen the same way was really the story of my life for a long time, and it still is. You have to have this intrinsic motivation within yourself to be able to look at each failure as a growing moment, to be able to look back and analyze what happened in those moments where you did fail, and then grow from them to move forward to make sure it doesn't happen again. Failure ultimately sets you up for success, because if you can look at the things that you've done that were not successful, that may be seen as failures, and you can sometimes find patterns of what you were doing to make sure that whatever you're doing moving forward, it doesn't happen repetitively, it doesn't happen time and time again, that you become a success. If you find one thing is going wrong, you fix that, and then the next instance something else goes wrong. Well, to me, that's still a success. It's not a failure. You may not have achieved your goal, but you achieved something. And I think it's having those little glimmers of hope and those little moments of positivity are so powerful in so many moments. And I think a lot of people tend to overlook those. They're always focused on the bigger picture, and we're focused on what is going to immediately make them happy, what is immediately going to change their direction or keep them on course. People tend to get derailed pretty quickly by that. And I think failure is one of those things that people get discouraged by and, really beat themselves up about. But to me, it's always a learning experience of how to get better, how to proceed, and how to not make that mistake again. Things are going to happen. We're going to make mistakes. We're human. But learning from those mistakes, learning from those failures, and making sure they don't happen that way again, to me, is still a success, because you fixed something that was inherently wrong. You fixed something that went wrong before, and if it doesn't happen again, you've passed that hurdle. You've gone over that to move on to the next thing. Okay, when something goes wrong, it's like, okay, that sucks. I get it. Can't change the outcome, but what I can change is what I do in the future. So let's focus on that. Let's not focus on the failure. Let's focus on what we can do to prevent the same thing from happening. And to me, that shows growth. To achieve any level of success, you have to have some sort of intrinsic motivation to keep you going on your path. There is also external motivation, where it's you see people doing unimaginable things, achieving so many different levels of success that help get you up every single day, that keep you focused on your goals. Like, inspiration just comes in like the weirdest ways. For me, something that inspires me is those positive messages that I get on social media, messages from teenagers that are contemplating suicide. Like that is so inspiring to me to say, I look at myself, I'm like, what you have and the platform you have is so special and so powerful that every time I step into the gym, obviously I have my husband with me and I don't want to let him down, but I also don't want to let those people down either. The one teenager who contemplated suicide but decided not to because I saw my profile is going to outweigh every single negative message I ever get for the rest of my career. Those are the ones that stick with me. I tend to not remember the negative ones. I tend to just focus on the positive and the good than the little negative nobodies. Haters have become a daily occurrence. And for me, I say thank you. I appreciate all the hate. I think it's one of the motivating factors that I have in my life. Because to me, there is no bigger FU to those people that are hating on me than me succeeding in life. And whether that's me holding up a trophy at the end of a competition, if that's me being, just doing what I love, it gets me excited. I think that's like the one thing where I can pull a little bit of anger from, the little bit that I have, is, when I'm in the gym and I'm really grinding and pushing and really trying to get the best out of myself. It's thinking back to the people that have talked down to me, or things that I've seen online that help me push through that little bit extra of where I can't pull it out for myself. The biggest underlying thing of what we're talking about comes down to personal happiness. If you are happy with yourself, if you're happy with what you're doing, everything else just kind of falls into place. And I think that's something that people don't focus on. I think people focus all the time on like, oh, just work, 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 head down, can't think of anything else. And then they're miserable and they're wondering why things aren't lining up in their life. Whereas if you just take a step back, take a deep breath, look at what you're doing, and you enjoy the ride of what's going on, things just naturally happen. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. They don't realize that, and they tend to lose sight of their own happiness in the pursuit of whatever their, goal is.
Thank you for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please go follow Rob on Instagram. And also, if you want to see the full interview, that is linked down below over at the interview channel. If you want to support projects like this in the future, there is a link for our merchandise. And also, please consider becoming a YouTube member. And if you want to see what we get up to in our day-to-day lives and the behind the scenes of our projects, go follow our vlog channel. Link down below. As always, have a blessed and productive day. Thank you.